This morning we tried to give a nice lineup of technology leaders. We kicked off with Microsoft. Next up we have Google, and after that we have Facebook. So you get a good sense of what's going on and the vision of the three different platforms. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ahmad Hamzawi, who's head of new business development for Google for Middle East, Central Asia, and Turkey.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, good morning, everybody. Looks like we still have a light crowd. I guess everybody's probably having a lot of fun in Beirut. So let's see if we can get my presentation up. I think they're just getting it set up right now. While they're setting that up, let me just mention, this is my third visit here to ArabNet, and what I usually talk about actually is, from Google's perspective, what do we see happening in MENA? So a lot of trends that we see in MENA I tend to talk a lot about and show you some really cool stats. What I'm going to do today is a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you more about trends and predictions for 2012 that are global in nature. Okay, so I'm going to touch very lightly on MENA-specific statistics, and I think, because you're here, you're going to be hearing stats all throughout the conference. And so if you have any questions specific about MENA stats, come and see me later, and I'm happy to give you some more information about that. And so at the end of the day, I hope that I can better inform any of your business or product strategies from a global perspective, so taking a look at global insights and how you can use those global insights to impact your business or wherever you might have one. So with that, I'm going to start with this. So I think one of the biggest aha moments, I think, these days is the fact that the mobile internet is the internet. It's actually becoming the internet these days. So if you think about it, tablets are eclipsing, it's the fastest growing consumer device in history. And if you look at it, in terms of overall sales, 9 out of 10 phones these days are being sold as smartphones. Okay, so that's another interesting metric. In addition to that, last year, another interesting metric that I think is really useful is that mobile phones overtook PC sales, which is another interesting metric. And that goes to show in this graph here that you can see that right at the end of next year, what we're going to see is this crossover between those accessing the internet on their phone compared to those accessing the internet on their desktop. And that's going to be something really important that you need to be thinking about when you're planning for your business strategy. Mobile is hugely important. And so now I'll talk about a few themes related to mobile. So the first one is that mobile's personal. What does that mean? So if you look at this picture right here, what you notice is that everybody here at this train station, they're on their phone. So whether you actually think about it or not, you're really connected to your phone. It's always on. It's sort of like your second brain, right? So this is a huge metric. It's a hugely important phenomenon that actually didn't exist in the past. And I'm going to be showing you some metrics that you're going to see, for example, on this slide. And if you're interested in some of these metrics and where I'm getting them from, I'll mention on our last slide. It's actually a set of surveys that we commissioned, that we published online, tracking smartphone consumer behavior. And so the fact of the matter is I'll give you an example here. People that actually do have a smartphone, almost all of them will use their smartphone at least once a day. And of course, I'm sure everybody here uses it much more than once a day. It's actually an interesting metric. Not only that, I'm sure just like everybody else here, it's probably the last thing you do before you sleep and the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. You're always looking at your phone. So it's always connected to you. The second thing is around smartphones and mobile in general. It's also about business. So how can we take advantage of mobiles for business? So in the previous world where we were in a disconnected world and we were, say, walking the streets and you're looking for information, by and large, you're probably looking for local information. And so what's happened now is we've transcended this disconnected world to a connected world where you're now looking for information on your phone, and it's likely about local information. And so I think the interesting behavior now with local information is that when you're searching for local info from your smartphone, the new consumer behavior that's occurring now is that you're starting to take action after you've actually done your search. So for example, I'll give you a few. Say you do a search for a restaurant. The next action you might take is you might decide that you might want to call that restaurant. You might want to make a purchase, whether it's online or in-store. And so what's happening now is, given a specific behavior of search on your smartphone, people are actually taking action now, which is a huge, interesting behavior that both content publishers and advertisers should be leveraging. And I'll give you another example of I think an important statistic and a metric you can think about. We have a specific feature in some of our ads where you can have something called click to call. So say you're running an ad that appears on a mobile device. what you can do from that specific ad is make it easier for that smartphone user to directly call your business. And the metric that I think is really powerful is every week, on average, we get roughly 10 million requests from those ads to actual phone, a phone number from a business. And that's a very interesting metric. So a lot of people are taking advantage of very simple features like that, clicking to call. And so in addition to that, so what you see here is this is an ad we ran in London, in the London Tube. And this is how Oxford Circus is actually sounded out. And the point I want to make here is that with technology now, we have new ways of interacting with your phone. It's not just about typing into your phone and doing a search or looking for local information. You can talk to your phone. And so what we're trying to do here is to mimic the typical online interaction, so the offline interaction, where you might be asking somebody for information. So rather than asking somebody, what if you could use technology to ask your phone and talk to your phone instead and have it respond to you? So this is technology that we have also. It's called Google Voice Search, where you can talk to your smartphone and you can do searches and take action. So this picture here, I think, reveals some really interesting behavior. So imagine if you will, say you're walking the streets of Ashrafiyah, and you take your phone and your tablet, say you have your tablet in your hand, and you point it, say, to one of these street corners. Well, what you might see is you might see interesting, I guess, feeds like this where you might be solicited to actually go to a restaurant. Say your friends have gone there before, they liked it. Based on your previous purchasing habits or the types of foods that you like, you may be suggested to actually go to this restaurant. You may get, for example, loyalty offers from, say, a coffee shop. You haven't been to this coffee shop in a while, and you may want to go back to that coffee shop given an offer. And say you want to go buy a pair of jeans, right? So I think with the combination of context and personalization, you can have a much richer online and both offline experience. So if you look at this, so say you're going to this store, you've been given an offer, say, for a pair of jeans. What we notice now in this survey also is that, by and large, I would say about half of people that walk into a store are using their smartphone now to get additional information related to their purchases. So in this case, you can take your smartphone, you can pull it out, you can scan the UPC, and get more information about that pair of jeans. So maybe jeans isn't the best example, maybe some high-value item that you're looking to purchase. You might want additional information about those pairs of jeans, what other people say about it, what your friends think, for example. You may also decide by looking at that pair of jeans and comparing prices online, you may not want to make that purchase in that store. You might want to go elsewhere. In addition to that, I think what you're seeing also is you're seeing a move away from paper money, cash, to moving your wallets to the digital world, having a digital wallet. So this is going to open up a huge amount of opportunities. I'm going to talk about that in my prediction section. And of course, I think it goes without saying that using your smartphones, it's of course a lot about social, right? So using your phones to connect to Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest. I'm sure all of you in this room are doing this many times a day. And I think more important than all that, people are having fun with their phones. So what's more important than social these days? Probably Angry Birds, right? So a lot of people here, who here plays Angry Birds or has played Angry Birds? Okay, so a lot of people here in this room. So I'll give you some really interesting statistics about Angry Birds. Angry Birds is a game that was launched initially on the mobile platform. So it's a mobile-only phenomenon. Not only that, it's been downloaded over 600 million times. That's a huge number for a mobile game. So this really established mobile phones as a true gaming platform. And especially in countries like Saudi and other parts of MENA, gaming is huge. Another interesting statistic is that every day, over 300 million minutes of Angry Birds is played all the time. So you can imagine a huge amount of time people are spending using games like this and playing games. So in addition to gaming, there are other things. I'll talk about YouTube for a second. So I want to mention this metric here. So again, since we're talking about mobile, I'll give you the mobile statistic. Over 600 million mobile YouTube views every day. So if you have a smartphone, you're watching overall around the world 600 million YouTube videos. And this is out of a total of 4 billion YouTube video views every day, both on mobile and desktop. To give you more interesting statistics, on the YouTube side, we get every minute 60 hours of video uploaded to YouTube. Of those 60 hours, 3 of those hours is coming from a mobile device. If we look at MENA, globally we have roughly 167 million YouTube views every day. And of the videos that are watched every day on mobile devices, of the videos that are watched and uploaded every day, 1 hour every minute is coming from MENA. Okay, so now we'll move into the prediction section. So we thought we'd have a little bit of fun with this section in terms of what do we think, if we were to have to say a crystal ball, what would be some of the things that we think are going to happen this year in 2012? So the first one is this. One thing you need to keep in mind is that this year is the year, definitely, and we've said this, of course, before, where people are going to be coming online for the first time on their mobile devices. So they're not going to go buy a laptop. They're not going to go buy a desktop. The first experience is going to be over a mobile device for the internet, okay? And that's going to be over 1 billion people this year. That's a huge number. And so if you look at PC sales relative to smartphone sales, that's just half the story. The other side of the equation is that it might be cheaper, and this is especially true in MENA, to access the internet over a mobile device than it is on a desktop device. And I think the other thing you need to keep in mind is, well, why is this important to me? Why should I care? If you're thinking of building an application or you're a content publisher, you have to be thinking about mobile. And if you don't, your competitors will be. So the second one here is this, and this is an interesting behavior that we observed in our search logs earlier this year. And so what happened, this interesting phenomenon happened where it was Valentine's Day, and what we noticed in our search logs is that there was a large percentage of trending terms related to Valentine's Day that were larger on mobile than they were on desktop. And this typically hasn't happened. So what we think is going to happen this year is there are going to be 10 other such moments that are going to happen globally where the mobile-generated queries will exceed those on desktop. So for example, if you're looking for flowers related to Valentine's Day, those queries were occurring more on mobile than they were on desktop. Now, in countries, or even in Africa, for example, where mobile penetration is, of course, more dominant than desktop, this has already occurred. And so I think the takeaway for all of you here is you need to be thinking about what are these specific local moments or events happening in my local market, and how can I be well-positioned to take advantage of that? Number 3 here is around this, right? So the mobile's role is going to be driving people into stores. And so what we know about mobile is the following. Anecdotally, when we run surveys to ask people, well, how did you go about making your purchase? Did your mobile phone help you in making that purchase? So we get a lot of data this way, but it's all after the fact. This is the year where we're making a very large investment in understanding exactly what users are doing from their cell phone, going from their mobile phone, making a decision about whether or not they're going to make a purchase, and of course, closing that loop with using their digital wallet. With all of that massive amount of quantitative data we can understand from users, we can better understand how users are going about making their purchasing decisions. Once we get all that data, it's going to completely astonish us. Number 4 here is around mobile-driven spend. And this is really a superset of the previous slide. The basic idea here is this is going to be a new category that advertisers, for example, they're going to be asking Google and other companies to really understand how they can target those that are using smartphones to make a purchase. But once they actually do that, they'll then be able to leverage the fact that using a smartphone, you're looking for information, you're seeing a specific ad, and you're driving sales and business to that specific company. So this is going to be a new category that advertisers are going to be looking to create, and also companies from Google, such as Google, to be optimizing for. Number 5, I think, is another interesting one, which is around small businesses. So with smartphones themselves, you cannot have a good local search experience without local businesses coming online. So the SMB space at Google is an area that we're making a lot of investment in. And so mobile is really the enabling platform for small businesses. And so this year, there's going to be over 1 million businesses that are going to go mobile, and they're going to go mobile first. So what that means is they may actually decide to leapfrog the desktop experience and go directly to a mobile experience. And I'll give you a good example of that. I was at an incubator yesterday, Beritech, you might know it here in Lebanon, and we were kind of talking to their portfolio of companies. And one company, they actually built this really interesting photo stitching application. And so what you might imagine is you take a bunch of pictures with your phone, you then upload your pictures, and then it automatically generates a panoramic view of it. So what they did, which as you might expect, is they decided to make a desktop application, and they built a Facebook version of that application. But they never got the adoption that they were after. So what they realized is that people just don't want to deal with the complexity of taking pictures off of their camera, uploading them to this desktop application, or to Facebook in this case, and then using it. So what they realized is that people just want to do this directly from their phone. And so what they did is they said, let's scrap that completely. Let's go mobile now. Let's try creating an iOS application and an Android application. And what they noticed is that they had a huge surge of people using their product now, photo stitching. And it's called Darmandar, actually. That's incubated currently in Berry Tech. So great example of how mobile can really impact your business. Number 6 here is around tablets. So at Google, what we previously used to do is in our query logs, we would look at mobile usage, whether it's coming from a low-end feature phone, a smartphone, or a tablet, and we lump them all together as mobile traffic. What we then noticed is that tablets themselves is an incremental behavior that's very different, that can be different than a typical smartphone behavior. And so what we're going to notice this year is that they are going to take their place as the fourth screen in people's lives. So of course, TV being the first, PC, phone, and then tablet. To give you an example of how companies are using this. So Disney they're using technology such as the second screen experience. So you might be watching a movie, say, The Lion King. And what most people do, of course, are using their tablet typically on the couch, right? So you're watching TV, you've got the tablet in your hand. And with a second screen experience, what you can do is your actual tablet can be listening passively to your TV. And what it can do is it can synchronize itself with the movie that you're watching. And based on that, it can deliver more relevant information about the movie you're watching. You can get a better understanding of the cast of characters and so on and so forth. So tablets this year is you need to be thinking of how I can deliver a richer experience for users that are using tablets. Number 7 here is around mobile augmented reality. So there have been a lot of examples, I think novelty applications for augmented reality. And I'll give you a good example of augmented reality for those that don't really know what this is. So imagine, if you will, you say you have kids and you go to a store, you go to a toy store, and you want to go buy a toy, so your child is looking around in one of the different aisles for toys. And what they typically do is they look at the box, they see the colors on the box, and so on and so forth. But you have to build what's in the box itself to actually use it and see if you really like it. Well, what you can do with augmented reality is you can take that specific box, point it to the screen, say in one of these aisles, and that the game itself or the toy itself basically can come to life, and you can interact with it. You can turn it around, and you can see what would it look like once it's actually built. In addition, what you can also do with augmented reality is you could augment a physical experience with virtual information, whether it's business information, extra metadata about the product that you're looking at. And so this is the year, I think, where you're going to see a lot more interesting applications of augmented reality. Number 8 here is around this year, and we talked about Angry Birds in the past. And I think what we're going to see this year is 5 other companies that are going to appear that are going to have very similar success to Angry Birds, okay? And I think this is a really interesting thing they need to be thinking about. And Angry Birds, as I mentioned before, was a mobile-first gaming platform. You might not even know this, but Angry Birds themselves, they're going to be having a movie. They're creating a movie in 2014 about Angry Birds. In addition to that, I was in Pakistan about a month ago. And just to show you how big of a media powerhouse and a cultural phenomenon it is, I was actually in a small store, and they were selling Angry Birds merchandise in a small little city in Pakistan, just to show you how big Angry Birds has become. And I think what's really interesting here, I think we're a company that's sort of on that path right now. Take a look at Draw Something. How many people have played Draw Something so far? Okay, so not too many here. So Draw Something is a very interesting company. They've been around for a while, actually. But what they did is, about 9 weeks ago, they decided to really invest heavy in mobile gaming. And so they launched Draw Something within, and I'll give you the interesting metric, which was mentioned yesterday also. So it took AOL it took them 9 years to get to 1 million users. It took Facebook 9 months. It took Instagram 90 days to get to 1 million users. And it took Draw Something only 9 days. 9 days to get to 1 million users. Can you imagine that? It's a huge, huge metric. There are going to be 5 other companies this year of similar success. Number 9 here is around your return on investment for mobile and tablet advertising. Because now we're able to close the loop and better give advertisers, especially those that are being very much squeezed around proving every dollar that they're spending on the advertising side. What's going to happen now is that return on your investment for mobile and tablet advertising is going to be hugely optimized, because you can actually track now your conversion rates from using your smartphone to initiate a purchase to making that purchase itself. Number 10 here is around video. And this, I think, another interesting phenomenon. So I think we've all established that YouTube or recorded video is really important as part of your own user engagement plans. And I think what's going to happen this year is that live video is going to be part of your business strategy. So you can imagine, say you're using your favorite auction site. In the past, you're not really sure if you want to make a purchase on an auction site. But what you could do with live video is you could engage that seller with live video and understand, you can actually look at the item that you're potentially looking to purchase and engage them there. So live video, I think this year, especially with technologies like Google Plus Hangouts, is going to enable you to do that. And this, of course, is nothing new. There are great products such as FaceTime and Skype that do this really well. But this is the year that I believe it's going to go mainstream. Number 11 is around HTML5. And I think last year, we weren't really sure. We're kind of testing the waters with HTML5 to see if it would be a standard that was going to actually have some legs in the industry. And I think we've sort of proven that last year. And this is a year where, by and large, companies are going to be moving over to HTML5 as their choice in terms of technology for application development for the user interface. And this is going to make it easier to embed audio, video, seamless interaction across platforms. So our prediction is roughly 80% of the 2,000 top publishers worldwide are going to be moving over to HTML5. And last but not least is really around social engagement. So I think users these days, they're starting to get used to and appreciating and understanding the value of companies that do have a social strategy. And so what we're going to see this year is we're going to see consumers demanding and expecting those companies that they deal with online to have a social strategy. And so if you're a business, you need to be thinking about social as core to your user engagement strategy and not complementary to it. So in terms of statistics I've been mentioning in this presentation, I want to leave you with these two. So if you go to www.ourmobileplanet.com, you can see all the different surveys that we've run, and this is across many countries around the world. So you can take a look at that. In addition to that, and this is about smartphone consumer behavior. So you can look at the statistics across penetration, behavior, activities, commerce, and advertisers, and then you can slice and dice that across country. If you're looking for information about how to go mobile, if I can, for example, find a way of getting in touch with other people that are building mobile sites and so on and so forth, best practices, and even test your site to see if it's mobile ready, please go to howtogomo.com for more information about that. And with that, thank you very much.